Hi, guys.
Hello.
Welcome to Etta, Arlene's Spiritcast. If you're new to this podcast, we talk about all things related to mindfulness, magic, astrology, tarot, Reiki, meditation, anything in that realm. Today's episode, we were going to chat about some books that we're reading, and that is because we believe that knowledge is power. It is everything. You should never discount learning, and especially in the spiritual path. I always think of like D&D. I've been playing Baldur's Gate obsessively for a very long time as well, and I always think of Gale the Wizard with his like books and how that like resonates with me, because like getting involved in spiritual stuff and magic and the like, a lot of it is research, and in my opinion it goes hand in hand with the personal revelations and gnosis and the like that one experiences on this path. Everybody's journeys are different though, so I'm not going to be the one to tell you what you should or shouldn't do. I just really appreciate learning.
Yes, and especially with this lifestyle choice and with how many different paths it can take you down, this is a good way of helping to figure that out. Learning, pick up a book, finding good teachers, consuming content that is enriching is all beneficial for you if you're trying to figure things out. Which obviously, if you listen to this podcast for a long time, like we always say, we're in Spirit College, and we get a lot of messages and a lot of people try to talk to us and talk to us about like, what should I do? Where should I start? And we always say, start with meditation and start with reading. Pick it up, find a teacher that resonates with you and give it some focus.
Yeah, so discernment's like a big thing. So obviously not everything is made equal. So finding like really solid sourced books, like literature on, what your endeavors are, and also finding really reputable teachers as well, and vetting the content that you consume, because one thing that I think is amazing about being in this, modern age is that information is everywhere. And you can learn so easily now. Like you can listen to a lecture on YouTube. Like there's so many lecture series from really awesome like people. There's all of these, online tools to help you find teachers. Locally, you probably have really solid teachers at like your magic shops and the like. Then there's places like archive.org that are really awesome for finding books, especially some of the older spiritual books that are out of print. I use archive.org for books in general, because I'll often find like poetry books that I want to read and things like that. I can't find the physical copies anymore because they're so old. So it's not exclusively the metaphysical, side of it. There's also this really cool app called Scribd that I'm like obsessed with, because it has a lot of really obscure PDFs.
Yeah.
So some of the like grimoires and some of the books that I can't find anywhere, sometimes I can find it on that one. But that one's like a subscription. I think it's like $11 a month. But it's
Something
totally
like
worth it. And obviously, like the library, so we both use Hoopla.
Hoopla and Libby. You can get a library card. You don't have to go to a physical location. You can do it online now. And then you have access to these apps. And like Hoopla has a large amount of audiobooks. So if you're someone that's out here like, oh, I don't like to read, I don't have time to read, blah, 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 there's ways that you can, like there's audiobooks on YouTube as well. So you don't actually have to make a financial commitment to get access to this information.
Yeah.
And getting a library card also helps.
Yeah, the library card, actually the Hoopla app, just like in general, they have like TV shows and they have all kinds of cool things. It's totally worth it. I mean, you save money.
Yeah.
And I end up going through all of that stuff when looking for various materials. Like recently, I rediscovered an author named Brandy Williams, and I have her one book, For the Love of the Gods, and that one was out of print for a while, but it looks like it's having like a limited run, so I was able to get my hands on a physical copy. So I read it digitally years ago because she was offering it for like $2. It's a really great book. I believe it's in our Amazon book list. So we have a Amazon list that has various books on various practices. So if you're looking to get inspiration, it's linked down below. For the Love of the Gods is great if you are interested in Thurgy and some of those older practices. But she also has a really cool book about women in magic. And basically there's this like time period where magic is very patriarchal, and I would say it's like probably like medieval on until like more recently. So you see like these systems change where women are more of like a tool in the craft, or they're kind of like a sideline. And it lines up with like society and religion and, these more patriarchal values. So she basically takes some of the more popular of these practices and she shifts them to be very feminine focused. And then the newest one was her book on ecstatic ritual, which I actually just finished. It's really good. I don't know, this weekend I had insomnia and I had some books on Scribd, and then I had that one come in the mail, and I read 4 books. I don't know how I did it.
I don't know how you did it either, honestly. Focus and determination. But you have a thirst for knowledge. You really enjoy information.
They weren't excessively large, I should say that. They were probably around like, the one book was 73 pages. I think the longest one was 200. They were kind of like old, like they're like spiritual books, but they just really captivated me. And I was reading them like randomly throughout the day over the weekend, and then I couldn't sleep, so I just sat up and did that because I'm trying not to be on social media.
Oh, yeah. I'm definitely trying to take a conscious effort this year to minimize my phone usage in general.
Me too.
Even like this is like TikTok. We didn't have TikTok for like 12 hours. Even that amount of time not having TikTok, I was more productive.
Oh, yeah.
So consciously choosing to do that, I'm excited to see what happens in a year.
Yeah. I mean, reading those books like that is not something I do all the time, by the way. That was just an anomaly. And I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. Usually I like to digest the material. And I don't read only witchcraft and metaphysical stuff. Like, I'm reading a lot of fun stuff. I like vampires a lot. Just not out there, Anne Rice. I was going to reread all the Vampire Chronicles.
I want to do that too, actually. Really bad. I still have yet to like finish her one book that I have, the Mayfair Witches one. I can't remember what it's called. I started that. I'm going to give that a read, but this is not. If you want to read it too, go ahead.
Yeah, it's fun. I mean, I like her a lot. Most people have like a couple books going at the same time. So I am reading this other vampire book that is. There were some publishing issues because it was the author wrote the books in the 90s, and then Netflix made a show called Brand New Cherry Flavor.
Yeah, I remember.
Yeah, and so I always talk about this because I really like the book. And so basically, I think he had like 3 books, or there were 3 that I know of, and they'd gone out of print. And then because of the show, everybody wanted them. So then the publishers were like, I guess there was like issues with publishing, like who had the rights or whatever. So for a period, you couldn't find them. So that was a couple years ago, so they might be available now, but I was able to get my hands on his vampire one. So that one I just like read on and off. And then I think I have like, I just finished this really cool book. It's by like a French philosopher, and she's second wave feminism. And it's just kind of about like the arts and creation. It's called The Laugh of the Medusa. That I read, I think I found that on Scribd. And it's like an essay within a larger book. So I've been really invested in literature that is around like women and arts and like beauty, and like how women are affected by our current state of reality, like society, where we as creatives often push our talents to the back in favor of domestic life. And we don't even realize we're doing it. We're often told that we need to like push it back and prioritize like partnering up, housework, career, things with career. Like art isn't a real career. Apparently that is often impacts women more than men. Women or men seem to be pushed towards creation, like inventing, that type of thing. Like it gets taken more seriously according to these like authors I've been reading. And when you look at society, you can kind of see that whenever you're like, oh my gosh, this man is a revolutionary. And then you look at like another artist who's a creative female, like I'll say Marina Abramovic, instead of perceiving her as a revolutionary, she's being called a witch. Like literally today in 2025, people think she's a witch when she's this prolific, like, artist who's impacted like art history.
Yeah.
And then, you think of like the Guerrilla Girls and how like they speak on women often being the muses, but never the like, aren't being paid as well. And so there's definitely like precedence for the like suppression of feminine creativity. And so that's what these authors are like addressing. And so I have this book called Sexual Personae that I'm going to start reading, and another like poetry book that's in that same vein. And then She Runs with Wolves.
Oh yeah.
Which I started. Yeah.
You started it?
I started it, but then I got distracted with those books that I read over the weekend.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I'm going to pick it up again quite yet. I do have new translations of the Iliad and the Odyssey that I got for my birthday.
Mhm.
I'm extremely excited to read. I just don't know when. I'm kind of going with my intuition for all of these. But my goal is to sit down and kind of lean in and focus on one book at a time, because I set like these book goals every year, and last year I was a little bit chaotic and I didn't reach my goal. So this year I'm trying to, and I think I'm off to a good start. We'll see.
I'm a little bit different.
Oh, wait, should you tell them where they can find us?
Oh, yeah. We've been talking for a minute. So if you like what we do and like this podcast, we ask that you consider leaving a review. Give us a 5-star. It helps with visibility. And if you like what we do and want to keep up with us and want to know when we publish a podcast and the stuff that we do, follow us over on Instagram at Arlene and on Threads. We pretty much only use those platforms now for many reasons. So go give us a follow over there. And then if you like Reiki, we post Reiki infused videos to YouTube multiple times a week. You can go over there. It's under Arlene, like and subscribe. And then if you'd like to receive a free Reiki session on the first of every month, we send it out to our email list. Go to www.adarlene.com/Reiki and sign up for our email list to get that. It's at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And then if you would like to continue to support this podcast and what we do, go to our website, adarlene.com/shop, and check out our Oracle card decks and books and the other stuff that we create. We really appreciate you all, and thank you for the donations.
All right. So you were talking about your reading.
Me being a little bit different.
Yeah.
I have undiagnosed ADHD, so the way I move through the world is a little bit different than the way you do. My attention span, obviously for many reasons, social media, so on and so forth, has been affected.
Yeah.
So I do things like I will pick up a book, read it for 10 minutes, put it down. So I'm jumping around on quite a few books right now.
I saw a quote, and it was saying that if you do something consistently for 10 minutes a day, you're still like ahead of everybody else. So just reading 10 minutes a day is probably like fine.
Doing anything is better than doing nothing.
Yeah.
Whether that be physical activity, anything that's going to benefit you, diet change, anything.
Yeah.
Just making one switch gradually over time, it will lock in.
Yeah.
So yeah, 10 minutes a day is better than nothing for sure. But I've been consciously trying, because I do consume a lot of spiritual content, not like online, but like books and stuff like that. Like a lot of my reading is geared towards that. So I have been trying to expand more to read more enjoyable books as well for entertainment, not just constantly trying to learn something. But where I'm at with my journey, I have been returning to the basics and returning to some books I've read 10 years ago, 15 years ago, and revisiting it to see if there's anything else I can take away from it with where I'm at in my life now.
Yeah.
Like the first time reading some of the Law of Attraction books, like I was in a different mindset than I am currently. So where my team is having me work is revisiting certain texts like that and viewing it from a different perspective.
Yeah.
So that's where I'm at. So I picked up the Course in Miracles again, and I started that over from the beginning. I picked that up, I don't know, 10 years ago? We talked about it on the podcast a couple times. And it's such a large book, and the language used in it can be a little bit challenging to get through if you're not viewing it through a certain lens. So there's certain interpretations in the book which is allowing me to take it slow, that's one of those, it's a course. It's one of those things where you're supposed to do it on your own time and like take what resonates from it. So this book, it's a massive, massive book. It might as well look like a Bible. It has the course material, and then you have like the lessons, and then you can teach with it. So I'm excited to see where that takes me.
Yeah.
I feel like obviously I'm being guided to it for a reason.
Oh, yeah.
So that's just one of the books I'm reading right now. And I revisited Louise Hay, You Can Heal Your Life, because we were talking to our friend about it a lot. I was like, this is one of those books that did change my life. It did put me on a different trajectory. So I've been revisiting that as well.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, I like You Can Heal Your Life, but you've always liked Louise Hay a lot.
I've always loved Louise Hay because that was one of the reasons of why I got into all this was for health reasons and trying to figure things out. And she was one of the teachers that I found that was speaking about certain things in a way that I resonated with.
Yeah, she's definitely impacts a lot of people, I would say.
A lot of people, and a lot of people online, and these creators will cherry pick certain key points from these teachers who released these books 20, 30, 40 years ago. And then they will try to spin it as if it's their ideology.
I know. And then these books are like so old that either sometimes some of the books like are out of print. And then other times it's just not on that whole social media rush. So it's out of everybody's
awareness
framework. Yeah. And they are not saying where they got their sources. So that's like one of my big issues is that some people who want to take on that like guru persona or teacher, they don't like cite where they are getting their information from. And I think that it's good to do that because you don't know if like somebody's just making it up. You don't know if it's their own personal gnosis. It's like, trust me, bro. And I'm not saying that like there isn't wisdom in our own experiences. And I think that like, we can learn from everybody. But I think when it comes to certain philosophies, it's cool if you cite it and say like, I developed this philosophy after reading the work of Bob Proctor. Or you can articulate that it's not like I sat in contemplation and I had this revelation that X, Y, and Z. That way, like the person who's consuming this information kind of has some framework. And then if you did get it from another person, then that allows that individual to explore that in depth.
Yeah.
And it's just good practice. And I am learning about a spirit that I've not really engaged with a whole lot prior till recently. And she has me learning about this new practice. And when I say new, it's not like new. It's like I'm giving attention to it.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how I roll. I like to study a lot of different things, but I'm not doing it all at once. So it's like I'll devote specific time. Like I might be like several years on one practice type thing.
Another good tip, like if you are being called to a certain thing, give it time. Whether that be a energy, like, I don't know, a spirit or whatever. Give that energy time to teach you and guide you where you need to go.
Yeah, because there's like, I always break it into, when it comes to like spirits, like there's two types of things that can be going on. You have to ask yourself why you are connecting with that entity and what they're teaching you. And like, is this a situation where they are helping me with personal development, helping me with something, helping me understand something about myself, heal something about myself, or am I being taken on a journey into this like practice of some form? Like, did the spirit come to me because I am going to be reading runes or something like that? I don't know. I just think that's good to have that type of discernment. It doesn't necessarily mean you have to like, I don't know what I'm trying to say. I'm just saying that you should have an intention for why you're dealing with X, Y, and Z. But with this situation, I don't know. I'm just learning about everything because that's just my nature. Or not everything. I'm just doing what she says, basically. And I found this teacher who's been doing it for like 20-some years, and they are just have like a background in it. They have a degree in it, and I trust the books. And I'm focusing on this because sometimes information can get muddled as well. And that's why having sources is really important, because then you can see where the instructors are overlapping and where they're not. So it can help you have a better understanding and avoid misinformation or things that aren't like necessarily historically accurate and might be based more on like an opinion. Because opinions, and I believe, are fine. However, that's exactly what they are. So it's nice to be able to discern between the two before you start basing really like intense personal belief systems.
Life-changing decisions.
Yes, life-changing decisions because you didn't vet your teacher, or you didn't you didn't have discernment. And I think that's why you'll start to see people who have some issues moving forward and have meltdowns. They're moving too fast and they're not taking their time finding proper teachers and the like. But
the motivation of it, I like we did that earlier. It's like, what is the motivation to do this? Why am I interested in this?
Yeah.
How is this going to help me or better my life and my existence? How is this going to bring me closer to me?
Yeah, like, or am I just distracting myself?
Or am I just distracting myself with something different?
Yeah.
But the teachers, we said it like, I don't know how many times we said it in this podcast, but like, it is very important to vet and understand where the information you're getting is coming from.
Yeah, I mean, especially like now, and like take your time. There's not a rush, and it's okay to like want to do something and move slow with it and like journal and contemplate and everything. And then anything that you start that's new, whether it be picking up a book or learning something, you're going to be bad at it initially. You're going to not, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
that's how the nature of everything is. There's no rush for that.
Some people will say it's the ego trying to have you not change your pattern because the pattern that you're in keeps you safe. And that's why there's such resistance. But if you keep trying, eventually it's going to become a habit.
Yeah, for sure. But I definitely think that reading is awesome. And I know there's a lot of people out there who will look at me like I'm crazy, but I like it. I think that it's something we should all do because being able to read is a gift. Not everybody can read. Audiobooks are fine if you like audiobooks. I just marvel at all of the beauty in literature that there is that is right at our fingertips that we can just, do. Yeah. It's like that with art too. Like I think about art and how like we throw away art too. I think in that category we think everything is just so like disposable, but then you sit down and like, listen to music. Like if you sit and just listen and how like spiritual that is. Just be in your own space, listening and vibing to like music you like and how it shouldn't be taken for granted, or visual arts as well. I think it brings us all closer to God, personally.
All of it. But I think that also goes back to how limited time people feel as though they have and how things are not valued the way they could be.
Mm-hmm.
But, oh well.
Yeah, so this was a little chit-chat about
chit-chatty about books. I think we're going to do more of these, actually, because it's fun to talk about this kind of stuff and to hear about new books and to hear what people are doing.
All right, so I'm going to get off here.
I'm good, too.
A Reiki at the end of this. So we will see you guys next week. We should have an astrologer on.
Yes.
Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed. We're excited.
We're excited. If not, it'll be a cool episode.
It'll be something with us.
Bye,
Until
guys.
next time.